My roommate gave birth in our dormitory, but begged me to provide an alibi for her. I'm just a poor student. If this gets out, the teachers won't give me financial aid anymore. I felt sorry for her poor family background and helped her lie. Unexpectedly, the next day she blamed me for it, claiming she had seen with her own eyes that I was the one who gave birth. My personal information was posted on adult websites. I was bullied by the entire class and forced to take a leave of absence. Before I left, she took the scholarship that should have been mine, stabbed me, and staged it to look like a suicide. Who told you to be ahead of me in everything? Even the department's most eligible bachelor likes you. Standing in my way means you deserve to die. When I woke up again, it was the day before she gave birth. Shuaing, I remember you have a black plastic bag. Give me one to put things in. Su Luyan was rummaging through the cabinet in front of me, trying to find that black plastic bag. Remembering the tragic scene from my previous life, my whole body trembled, and I pushed her away forcefully. She was startled. Have you lost your mind? The black bag, printed with the name of an idol, was lying quietly in the cabinet. In my previous life, she deliberately took my bag to hold the abandoned baby. Later, she pinned the crime of giving birth on me. The whole class knew I was a fan of that idol. The bag with his name firmly nailed me to the pillar of shame. Su Luyan was trying to harm me. Now that I've been reborn, I certainly can't let her succeed. She stumbled back, instinctively protecting her lower abdomen. Cheng-Yin behind her supported her and glared at me disapprovingly. Shuaing, I know your family is well off and you look down on us poor students, but you don't have to push her that hard, do you? The two of them played along, acting like sisters, but only I knew that Su Luyan secretly spat into Cheng-Yin's cup and used her toothbrush to scrub the toilet. I had to use her to help me get revenge. My gaze involuntarily fell on her slightly protruding belly. Su Luyan came from a poor family. She had been malnourished since childhood and was thin. So in the later stages of her pregnancy, she wore loose, baggy clothes. None of us noticed, barring accidents. Tomorrow was her due date. I just bumped into you. You're paying too much attention to your stomach. Anyone would think you were pregnant, I said teasingly. A flash of surprise crossed Su Luyan's face. She narrowed her eyes and sized me up. What a joke! Our Yen isn't the type to fool around like that. Cheng-Yin chimed in, hearing the words fool around. Her face turned green. She forcefully shook off Cheng-Yin's hand and stormed out of the dormitory in a huff. I was happy for the peace and quiet. I searched online for surveillance equipment, preparing, in advance, for the fatal confrontation. All night, she tossed and turned on the bed opposite me, running to the bathroom from time to time. I remembered the baby was born the next afternoon. Taking advantage of the teacher not paying attention, I slipped out the back door early and hid in the bathroom. Before long, I heard soft, cautious footsteps. Su Luyan was very careful. She checked every single stall. Luckily, I had gone into the storage room at the very back in advance. I quietly placed my phone upside down on the ground to observe what was happening next door. Then I heard the sounds of painful groaning. Blood stained the floor red, like a living hell. Half an hour later, the first cry was finally heard. Su Luyan, barely alive and weak, raised a trembling hand and tightly gripped the baby's neck. My good son, don't blame your mother for being ruthless. I covered my mouth, afraid I would scream. She had actually strangled the baby with her own hands. A mother, capable of such cruelty. Su Luyan was very fast. Soon after, she had cleaned the floor completely. A faint trail of blood lingered in the air. My legs were numb from squatting. I stumbled and almost fell. Who? Oh no. Hearing the footsteps getting closer, my heart pounded wildly. If she found me, everything would be ruined. Meow. It was a cat. 2 tabby cats had run in through the window and were jumping up and down in the bathroom. Both Su Luyen and I breathed a sigh of relief. Of course, mine was silent. Only after I was sure she had left did I move my numb, aching legs and slowly walk out of the bathroom. Listening to the teacher's lecture, I stared blankly at the video footage. After school, I walked back to the dormitory with Xiaohe. She was one of the few reasonable people, so we had a decent relationship. Soon after, I heard the dormitory auntie shouting in the hallway, holding the bag with the abandoned baby, asking who among us had done it. Everyone covered their mouths in shock, looking at each other. You young people do things without thinking about the consequences. You actually gave birth in the dormitory. The dormitory auntie used to be the school's disciplinary director. She was efficient and ruthless, never tolerating any wrongdoing. Being late back would get you announced throughout the building, let alone giving birth. If none of you admit it, I'll have to check the surveillance cameras. Then it won't be as simple as just an apology. Su Liuyen's face was pale. She could barely stand. Her gaze fell on me. She cautiously pulled me back to the dormitory. When they check the cameras, just say it wasn't me. Okay. I'm just a poor student. If this gets out, the teachers won't give me my financial aid anymore. In my previous life, she had said the same thing, seeing her poor family background. I had a moment of weakness and helped her lie, saying we had been together the whole time. I never expected her to stab me in the back. I was reviled by all the girls in the building. My roommates bullied me. The matter even ended up on the campus gossip page. My photos and phone number were posted on porn sites. Those lecherous old men would even burst into my classroom during class and forcibly drag me away. I begged her to admit her mistake and help clear my name. She kicked me hard in the lower abdomen. Don't be stupid. Your reputation is already ruined. Do you want to drag me down with you? My thoughts returned to the present. I looked at the woman in front of me and couldn't help but curl my lips into a smile. Okay, I promise you. Su Luyen was stunned for a moment. Tears welled up in her eyes, and she hugged me tightly. She pulled me back to the hallway. By then, the dormitory Annie was already looking at the surveillance footage, her expression grave. During that entire time period, only Su Luyen and I had gone in and out of the bathroom one after the other. Su Luyen was dumbfounded. She stared blankly at me. She hadn't expected that anyone else knew about her giving birth. The villain filed the first complaint. She burst into tears, wailing, "Teacher, you have to get justice for me. I'm just a poor student. How would I dare do something so heinous? My parents are just honest farmers. If I'm wrongly accused, they'll be too ashamed to show their faces." Her crying earned her a lot of sympathy. Even the look the dormitory teacher gave me held a trace of disgust. "That boy from your department is always waiting for you downstairs, isn't he? Lin Shuang, university isn't for doing this kind of filthy thing." She spoke with conviction, her gaze sharp and venomous, as if trying to see right through me. "Where's your proof? Why are you accusing me?" Speechless, I pretended to take off my pants. "We're all girls here. Nothing to be afraid of. Just let me show you my sanitary pad. Which woman on her period can still give birth?" Everyone was so scared they stepped back, their faces turning white. Su Luyen stammered, unable to speak. She could only repeat that she hadn't given birth, that she was a poor student. Her tearful look was particularly pitiful. I imitated her and said it wasn't me either. Unexpectedly, she got anxious. "You were gone for so long. If you say it wasn't you, you need proof." Everyone else chimed in agreement. It was time to end this farce. I took out my phone, opened the video recording, and shoved it in her face. "Today, I'll show you what it means to have ironclad evidence." The moment the video started playing, everyone gasped in unison. The pools of blood, accompanied by the muffled screams of suppressed pain. were terrifying to see. You. How did you film that? Stop playing it. I told you to stop. Didn't you hear? Su Luyen screamed and tried to grab my phone. I deftly dodged. She was already weak, and with the loss of balance, she fell to the ground with a crash. Then came the baby's cry. I sighed repeatedly and said, helplessly, I stayed in the bathroom for so long because my stomach was upset. I never expected to run into this. This should prove my innocence. Right. The dormitory auntie's face was darker than ink. Her sharp eyes were fixed on Su Luyen, and she threatened to call the homeroom teacher. You can't call the teacher. If you do, I'll lose my financial aid. Even at a time like this, she was still thinking about money. Girls from other dorms whispered among themselves, their gazes full of contempt for her. Su Luyen had a lot of pride. She couldn't stand being talked about like that. She rushed over to argue with them. She was pushed to the ground. Blood began to seep from her lower body. The dormitory auntie panicked then. She immediately contacted the homeroom teacher and told her to call the parents. They called an ambulance and took her to the hospital. In the hospital corridor, Ching-Yin didn't dare look at me. She stood awkwardly in the corner. The nurse anxiously asked who among us was a family member of the patient. She said there was a risk of uterine removal and that a signature was needed for the surgery. Who would dare step forward for such a big thing? Her parents couldn't get there anytime soon. None of us three dared to move. In the end, Su Luyen, unable to bear the pain any longer, signed for herself. After the surgery, she was wheeled back to the ward. Pale-faced, she stared at the ceiling in despair. Lin Shuang, are you happy now? I was confused. I didn't understand what she meant. If you hadn't recorded that video and given me an alibi, would I have been pushed? Would I have needed a hysterectomy? She was pale-faced and screaming, pounding the bed in agitation. But if I hadn't shown the video, then my parents would have been the ones called. Your family is much better off than mine, even if you lost your scholarship and got scolded by your parents. So what? Don't you just think I'm easy to bully? Zhao He, who had been listening nearby, couldn't take it anymore. She sneered. Why should someone else take the blame for your mistake? You're afraid of being ruined. But isn't she afraid too? Su Luyen was practically steaming with rage. For her, the labels of poor student and financial aid saved her from a lot of trouble. Now that this umbrella had been ripped away, she could no longer pretend to be an innocent, delicate girl. She must have hated me to death. I didn't tell you to take off your pants. Your hysterectomy is because you got an infection during childbirth. It has nothing to do with me either. I rolled my eyes speechlessly, took Xiaohe's hand, and walked out of the ward. We ran right into the homeroom teacher, Su Liuyen's parents, and a bunch of students who had come specifically to gawk. My smile didn't reach my eyes. This time, Su Luyen had really become famous. The abortion incident caused an uproar at school. After Su Luyen was discharged, she was like a changed person. She wore a mask and hat every day, darting through the school. No one could see her face clearly. Everyone speculated about who the father was. Only I knew. In my previous life, I had accidentally run into her outside a bar. Later, I found out she was working there as a liquor promotion girl. She was fooling around with some disreputable, dyed hair guy. Later, that guy even brought other tattooed men to the school to spread wild rumors about me. It was all Su Liuyen's doing. I had to find a chance to get back at her. The next evening, I followed Su Luyen to the bar again. I watched her confront the dyed hair guy. The two of them scuffled over the baby. If you don't give me money, believe me, I'll report you for sexual harassment, for getting me pregnant on purpose. Unexpectedly, the dyed hair guy punched her, hitting her square on the jaw. The argument grew louder. I quickly filmed the video and then, taking advantage of the chaos, headed back towards the dormitory. I anonymously posted the video to the school's confession page. I saw Chose, the department's most eligible bachelor, waiting for me downstairs. He was another hypocrite. In my previous life, he was all over me, but after the baby incident came out, he changed like night and day. He couldn't stay far enough away from me. Later, he got together with Su Luyen. The two of them were always together, and they definitely badmouthed me plenty. Thinking of this, I silently clenched my fists. From the corner of my eye, I saw Su Luyen's figure. I deliberately chose an angle and stood intimately close to Chose. I could clearly feel that Su Luyen's eyes were filled with murderous rage. After returning to the dorm, she targeted me in every way. She slammed cabinet doors so hard they shook. Then she saw the photos and videos on the campus gossip page. She screamed again. "Who is it? Who's following me?" Her eyes blazing, she strode over to me. "Was it you? You hold a grudge against me. So you deliberately took those secret photos and videos?" Hearing her say this, I smiled sincerely. "Su Luyen, look in the mirror more often. Whether it's looks, family background, or academic performance, I have nothing to envy you for, do I?" She hadn't expected me to be so blunt. Her eyes, with their slightly upturned, triangular shape, filled with malice, staring intently at me. Anonymous campus posts couldn't be deleted. The thread continued to spread. She could only throw tantrums in the dorm, unable to do anything else. In front of her, I deliberately called the homeroom teacher and said I wanted to apply for the scholarship. The goal was to make her act quickly. The homeroom teacher was also very fast. By the third day, the scholarship recipient had been decided. My grades were among the top in the department. I was completely qualified to receive the scholarship. Su Luyen was fourth, just missing out. Besides, her reputation was already ruined. The school wouldn't give her the money. After I received the money, I happily said I would treat the other two roommates to a meal. Chung Een immediately turned into a sycophant, praising me left and right. "I always said you were born to get the scholarship. You're pretty, kind-hearted, and your grades are higher than everyone else's." She was excitedly sucking up, unaware that Su Luyen behind her had completely changed expression. Every word in that sentence precisely hit her sore spots. Seeing that the situation had developed enough, I took the two of them out, deliberately stalling the mealtime. I ran to the bathroom to check the surveillance. Su Luyen had gone mad. She spat into Chung Yin's cup, used her toothbrush to scrub the toilet. She even went after her shoes. I watched Chung Yin, who was eating and drinking without a care in the world, and couldn't help but laugh. After we returned, she still didn't notice anything unusual. She drank water and brushed her teeth as usual. A flash of triumphant satisfaction crossed Su Luyen's eyes. She pretended to be casual while carefully sizing me up. She texted me, asking to have a chat with me in the dorm tomorrow at noon. I happily agreed. The next day at noon, I stood at the dormitory door, my heart pounding. In my previous life, this was where she stabbed me to death. Su Luyen had even worn white gloves to put my fingerprints on the knife. Staging a suicide, she had plotted meticulously and got away with it, and I had died there. I mentally prepared myself and pushed the door open. I saw her sitting on the bed, waiting for me. The fruit knife was hidden in her sleeve. The white gloves were conspicuous and deliberate. "It's so hot. Wearing long sleeves and pants and white gloves, anyone would think you were about to commit a crime." I said it deliberately, glancing at the camera, making sure I was sitting in its field of view. Her face paled for a moment. She awkwardly changed the subject. "Lin Shuang, are you happy with that scholarship?" Of course. I deserved it. Even if she hadn't had the accident, she still wouldn't have gotten it based on her grades. Bullshit. I saw this year's results. There's only a 0.5-point difference between us. If I talked to the homeroom teacher, I'd be eligible to apply. Besides, I'm a poor student, she would definitely be more lenient with me. As she spoke, she became more and more unhinged, unable to stop herself from cursing. If it weren't for you, would I be hated by everyone? Would I be penniless? She suddenly stood up and pulled out the fruit knife. I swallowed nervously, my voice trembling. This is a dorm. Aren't you afraid the other students or teachers will find out? Su Luyen stared at me for a few seconds, then burst out laughing. Tears streamed down her face. I'm wearing gloves. How will anyone know it was me? Besides, it's class time. There's only the two of us in this whole dorm. You can scream your head off, but no one will come to save you. With a loud yell, she charged at me. I quickly dodged. The knife tip grazed my arm, and blood instantly stained the hem of my shirt. Clutching my wound tightly, I retreated to the door. Su Luyen walked towards me with a sinister smile, her hand raised high. She yelled, "Go to hell!" Oh no, help! Bang! The door was kicked open. Zhao He rushed in with other classmates and the dormitory Annie. They used mops and brooms to force her back. No! This building is supposed to be empty. How did you get in? Su Luyen was dumbfounded. The knife clattered to the ground. A sharp-eyed student kicked it away. Who would have thought you were this kind of person, stabbing a classmate over a scholarship? The dormitory teacher scolded her and called the police. No matter how much she begged, it was useless. Thankfully, I had been cautious and told Zhao He that she was going to kill me. Of course, I phrased it as a guess, to get the dormitory teacher to believe me. I also connected the surveillance feed to her phone. After she saw Su Luyen spitting into the cup, she believed me. Everyone had hidden in the neighboring dorm, ready to strike, waiting for me to call for help. If she hadn't cut me, it would have been hard to convict her based solely on the surveillance footage. Su Luyen, you bitch! You dared to scrub the toilet with my toothbrush? I'll kill you! Chung Yin charged out from the corner and started wailing on her. She dumped the water from her thermos over Su Luyen's head, disgusting her. Su Luyen was like a stray dog. Everyone wanted to kick her. She didn't fight back. It wasn't until the handcuffs were on that her expression changed. As she passed me, the hatred in her eyes remained. I waved at her cheekily. See ya. After she was taken away, Zhao, he and I went to the hospital to get my wound bandaged. She looked unhappy, her face rigid, blaming me for being too reckless. What if she hadn't stabbed your arm but your stomach instead? What then? We wouldn't have been able to save you in time. I comforted her, who was close to tears, and smiled weakly. She was right. I wouldn't have dared do this with anyone else. In my previous life, Su Luyen first stabbed my arm, then went for my stomach. I had fully judged her next move, which was why I was so bold. I helplessly wiped away Zhao He's tears and teased her softly. See, I'm not dead. I'm still alive. She laughed through her tears. After my wound was bandaged, we went to the police station. We saw Su Luyen's haggard face. Her eyes were bloodshot, as if about to bleed. Following procedure, I explained my suspicions and the series of events I had prepared for, and I presented the surveillance evidence, with everyone's testimony and the wound on my body. She had nothing to say in her defense. She not only faced attention, but also had to pay compensation. Su Luyen's parents knelt at my feet, begging me to be magnanimous and spare their daughter. If it's too much, stab me instead. Whatever wrong she did, I'll pay for it. The old woman wailed, pounding her chest with her fists. She was practically trying to beat herself to death. I stepped back, afraid she would get her tears on me. The old man beside her couldn't stand it anymore. He grabbed Su Luyen by the hair, dragged her in front of me, kicked her hard, and knelt down himself. Both my classmates and I were shocked. We worked hard to send you to school. You get pregnant. You stab people. Did you learn nothing from your books? He forced Su Luyen to apologize to me, but Su Luyen didn't make a sound. Her gaze was fixed on me, full of hatred. I didn't intend to forgive her. She had to take responsibility for her mistakes. As I walked to the door with the homeroom teacher, her mother blocked us, but this time, she was addressing the teacher. She demanded to find out which bastard had gotten her daughter pregnant, insisting he must pay compensation. The teacher looked troubled, but the gossipy students behind us couldn't contain themselves. Don't wrongly accuse our classmates. Your daughter was fooling around with a dyed hair guy from that bar outside school. That's how she got pregnant. It's all over our campus page. Her mother was stunned. She looked at her daughter in confusion. A student took out a video. The person's face was clearly visible. The old woman, her hands clumsy, managed to send the video to her own phone, saying she would confront that person who had ruined her daughter's life. In that instant, I actually felt a bit of pity for her. No mother doesn't love her daughter. The child she had sacrificed everything to raise had done something so utterly heinous. The stabbing incident caused a huge uproar. The teacher specifically approved a half-month leave for me. Su Luyen was detained for a month, ordered to pay all my medical expenses, and compensate me 3,000 yuan. That money cost her dearly. I heard her family sold 2 acres of land so they wouldn't have to borrow from others. I took good care of myself during that half-month, periodically letting my parents know I was safe. Given her special circumstances, the teacher specifically asked for my opinion. My revenge wasn't over yet, so I naturally wouldn't let her leave the school. Pretending to be magnanimous, I let her continue studying at the school, but I made her move out of the dorm and live alone. The teacher also installed a metal detector in the classroom. Any dangerous metal object would trigger an automatic alarm. Although the other students complained privately, no one dared to speak up. They were all afraid of being the next one to get stabbed. After Chiuze, the department's most eligible bachelor, learned that she had stabbed me. He constantly brought fruit and supplements to visit me. I refused them all. Ching-yin happened to pass by and teased, "You two are perfect for each other. Why don't you get together?" Before the laughter faded, it suddenly stopped. It was Su Luyen. She had been released. Under the empty dormitory building, only the 4 of us were there. Ching-yin turned and ran in fear. Su Luyen gave me a deep, cold, decisive look, then walked upstairs without looking back. Wherever she went, no one dared to walk beside her. I thanked Chiuze, then walked back to the dorm without looking back. I locked the door and started scrolling through the anonymous campus forum. Everyone was talking about her. Don't you know? She had a hysterectomy. Oh my God, she's so promiscuous. Does she have a disease? I just saw her. My eyes are dirty. I need to wash them. I had just posted one comment when many people followed suit. Just like when she had bullied me, all those people, unaware of the truth, had blamed and cursed me, saying I was indecent, that I was a plaything for men. No matter how I defended myself, it was useless. Those dark days had hung over me like an unshakable cloud. I was just giving her back everything she had done to me. A whole series of Su Luyen's bizarre behaviors in the dorm were exposed. You don't know. Her phone has been ringing off the hook. I heard people want to spend 3 days and 3 nights in bed with her. We need to stay far away from her from now on, or we might get stabbed too. With the deluge of insults and comments, Su Luyen finally couldn't take it anymore. She grabbed a stool and stood in the hallway, screaming. She banged on every dorm door. She challenged the girls who were cursing her to come out. When she got to our door, she swung the stool with full force. Ching-yin's face turned white. She clung tightly to Zhao He. "Zhao!" He told me to hide and not make a sound. She was eventually taken away by the dormitory teacher, who rushed over. That old, rickety wooden door was barely hanging on. Su Luyen's screams echoed through the dormitory, and a few drops of blood were on the floor. Her mental state was already bad. I looked thoughtfully at the bathroom at the end of the corridor. It was time for a stronger dose. Everyone was afraid to go out because of her. Even going to the bathroom at night, they went in groups. Su Liuyan's parents came to the school to cause trouble, insisting that the dormitory supervisor hadn't been vigilant enough, which was why she had snuck out at night and gotten pregnant. The dormitory supervisor also had a quick temper. She got into an argument with them. Although she wasn't officially reprimanded, it severely impacted her work. She was even less willing to deal with Su Liuyan. Zhao He and I were strolling around the school when we saw a large crowd gathered in the distance. They were talking about something. When we got closer, I saw that Su Liuyan was confessing to Qiuzhe. She claimed she wanted to live without regrets. Have you lost your mind? Why would I be with you? Do you think I'm a consolation prize? Qiuzhe hurriedly distanced himself from her and turned to his roommates for help. What I feel for you is true love. That Lin Shuiying doesn't know a thing. She doesn't love you at all. As long as you're with me, everything I have is yours. I can take out loans. I'll give you money to spend. Just say yes. She was holding a bunch of weeds and wild daisies, chasing him, trying to kiss him. It scared him badly. He used his buddies as shields. You got pregnant. You tried to kill someone. Who would date you? Even if I got an old sow, I wouldn't fall for you. Hearing this, Su Liuyan faltered in her pursuit. Her eyes held shock, resignation, resentment. She just stared at him, unblinking. Qiuzhe was terrified. He stammered, Don't come any closer. I've studied martial arts for 2 years. I won't go easy on you just because you're a woman. He was incoherent. In his panic, he tripped over his own feet and fell flat on his face. Taking advantage of his distraction, Su Liuyan kissed him hard on the mouth. Their lips and teeth entangled, and there was even blood. She had bitten through his lip. The students, enjoying the spectacle, took out their phones to take pictures. I couldn't help but laugh. She really was fighting for love. You're fucking crazy. You bitch. Stay away from me. Qiuzhe shoved her away, almost screaming, and wiped his mouth in disgust. Su Liuyan smiled faintly and slowly uttered words that made everyone's jaw drop. I'm sick. The bacteria will spread to you through your blood. Qiuzhe, if I can't have something, no one else will either. What? She's sick? Everyone gasped and unconsciously took a step back. The original circle of onlookers widened. Holy shit? Su Liuyan, don't joke around. Tell me it's a lie. I pulled Zhao He and quietly stood on the outermost edge of the crowd, hoping she wouldn't see us. Unfortunately, Su Liuyan's words weren't what he wanted to hear. It was true, but no one knew what disease she had. Whoa, she doesn't have an STD, does she? She was fooling around, and now she's lost her uterus. If it's not an STD, what is it? The girls were buzzing, each running back to their dorms. As the crowd thinned, I also pulled Zhao He into the stream of people, afraid Su Liuyan would see us. It turned out Su Liuyan really was sick, whether it was an STD or something else. It was shocking enough. Only Qiuzhe's wails and howls echoed across the empty sports field. For a whole week, he didn't come to class. No one dared to report to the teacher until the test results came back, afraid of getting on Su Liuyan's bad side. Besides me, the person most afraid was Changyin. They had been so close, and now they were bitter enemies. She quietly pleaded with me, hoping I would protect her. I glanced towards the door just as Su Liuyan went to the bathroom. Confidently, I said, Don't be afraid. Barring unforeseen circumstances, Su Liuyan won't be at this school much longer. I bought a small, thin Bluetooth speaker. While she was out of the dorm, I hid it in her room. Unless you were specifically looking for it, you wouldn't see it. I also bought a small cosplay doll and hid it in her closet. From time to time, I would play sounds of a child crying for help. It scared Su Luyen so much she would curse in the hallway, running back and forth like a madwoman. At midnight, she tore her room apart looking for the source of the sound, but she couldn't find it. "Can you stop being so noisy? We have class tomorrow. If you're not going to live here quietly, get out." The girls in the next room couldn't take it anymore. The four of them together yelled at her. But Su Luyen, usually so fierce, was like a ghost who had lost her soul. She asked them if they had heard a child crying. The girls' voices trembled with fear. "A child crying? It's the middle of the night. Don't scare us." No one dared to say anything else. They went back to their dorms and locked the doors. I left my door slightly ajar, recording everything with my phone. My baby, my baby! She had lost her soul. She stood in the hallway, clutching her head and crying. No one dared to make a sound in that large dormitory building. I continued, controlling the speaker, the sound fluctuating, finally disappearing at daybreak. The cycle repeated. The girls in the room next door finally couldn't take it. They reported it to the teacher. The teacher wanted to persuade her to drop out, but hesitated because she was a poor student. If she dropped out, it was unlikely any other school would take her. Everyone simply moved her classmates to the opposite side of the hallway. The 10 dormitories on the west side of the building were all hers. No one was nearby. At 11 p.m., I activated the speaker on time. The 2 new Fungjin dolls I bought for her should have arrived. They had a built-in effect to simulate blood splatter. I didn't need to guess that Su Luyen would love this gift. In the dead of night, the sound of a child crying for its mother echoed again, along with a series of bangs and crashes. The dormitory auntie finally mustered her courage and went to investigate. None of us 3 in my dorm were asleep. We all poked our heads out to look. Other students also followed the auntie, wanting an explanation, but when they got closer, they were all stunned by the sight. Su Luyen, it seemed, had gone mad. The room was filled with clutter, pillows, bedding, snacks, dinner leftovers, all mixed together. I quickly turned off the speaker. Su Luyen's eyes were cloudy and lifeless. She stared blankly at us. In her arms, she held the blood-covered cloth doll. Her body was also covered in blood. "Dude, don't move." The dormitory auntie's tongue was tied with fear. Only when she confirmed that Su Luyen wasn't injured did she breathe a sigh of relief. She gripped the wooden stick in her hand tightly, staring at Su Luyen without daring to relax. She asked her what she was trying to do. "Can't you hear my baby crying?" Her eyes were wide as bells. Her voice alternated between soft whispers and loud, piercing shrieks. "He's crying. My son is crying." She held the doll in her arms and lifted her shirt to feed it. Some of the gossipy students had already pulled out their phones. The dormitory auntie stopped them, wanting to protect Su Luyen's privacy. But when the doll reached her chest, she suddenly flew into a rage and violently threw the doll against the wall. "No, this isn't my son. Where is my son? Did you take him?" She lunged forward. Everyone pushed back. Luckily, she just stood by the iron cabinet. A student behind her said, trembling, "Look, your son is right behind you. He wants you to hold him." Su Luyen suddenly woke up. She slowly turned around and picked up the doll. She accidentally touched the doll's chest. The infant's cry echoed through the entire corridor. It sent chills down everyone's spine. The dormitory auntie led us away. We all went back to our rooms and locked our doors. That night, very few people even went to the bathroom. The news that Su Luyen had gone mad spread throughout the school the next day. Her crazy video was clicked on repeatedly on the school network. Everyone was talking about her. During class, she suddenly burst into the room, holding the doll and trying to feed it. The male students covered their eyes but peeked anyway. Finally, with no other choice, the teacher took a risk. contacted the school administration, and called her parents. Su Liuyen's mother cried, tears streaming down her face. Unable to speak, she could only repeatedly tug at her daughter's clothes, trying to stop her from feeding the doll. What crime has our family committed? She wailed in the hallway, then turned to grab the doll. Su Luyan, like a madwoman, raised her hand and pushed her mother into the corner. The back of her head hit the stone wall hard. The old woman passed out on the spot. But Su Luyan acted as if she hadn't seen her. She didn't even glance her way. The school scrambled to call an ambulance. Su Liuyen's mother was put in the ambulance. The hallway was in chaos. Su Luyan was left alone in the school's disciplinary office. No one was allowed to visit her. Only after her mother woke up did her family take her away. They processed her withdrawal. The room she had lived in was turned into a storage closet. Everyone avoided it. Half a year later, we successfully moved on to our sophomore year. But Su Luyan remained a topic of conversation. I was in the cafeteria when Chang-in mysteriously came over and asked if I had heard about her. She was the school gossip. She always knew the latest news first. I heard Su Luyan died. I looked at her in surprise, not sure what she meant by died. Wasn't she mentally ill and sent to a mental hospital? There was a male patient there who harassed her. She got angry and stabbed him with a pair of chopsticks. The guy didn't take it lying down. They got into a fight, and he strangled her to death. Zhao! He and I both opened our mouths wide, clearly not expecting that. My cousin is a nurse at that hospital. My information is top-notch. She lifted her head proudly, her tone full of disdain. Her mother went to the hospital to make a scene. She fainted as she was leaving, and before she could get up, she was run over by a big truck. It was a terrible sight. I smacked my lips involuntarily. Who would have guessed? Qing Yin's gossip secured her status. Before long, she was called away by other students to tell the story again, and I sat in the cafeteria, leisurely enjoying my meal. Why did the food taste better after hearing that news? Evil people get their comeuppance. As for me, a good person, of course I'm going to live a happy and blissful life. The poor student my mother sponsored was impersonating me at school. At the crowded school gate, she beat me to it, expertly getting into the car and shouting for everyone around to hear. Zhao Zhao, I know we're good friends, and Ji Zhao, these things would hurt our feelings. But we don't even go the same way. You can't always freeload off me and have my family's driver take you home just because we're close. Hearing this, the people around me cast disdainful glances my way. If this were before, my face would be bright red and I wouldn't know how to respond. But luckily, I had just been reborn. So, in front of everyone, I mercilessly pulled her out of the car, got in myself, and spat in her face. You've lived a few good days and forgotten who you are. Your family's driver? You think he'd dare answer if you called him? The noise of the crowd died down with my cold, sharp words. With a disgusted, cold look, I glanced at Guan Xiaoya, whose uniform was now disheveled for me, pulling her out of the car, and didn't say another word. I slammed the car door shut and ordered the driver to go. Outside the car, Guan Xiaoya, having snapped out of it, pounded on the door, still putting on that inexplicably arrogant air, ordering me to open the door. Mississippi, is this really okay? The driver turned to look at me, his tone full of reluctance. Not okay. I sneered. Guan Xiaoya wanted me to open the door? Fine, I'd do it. Catching her off guard, I popped the lock. The moment she finally managed to pull the door open, I leaned back slightly and kicked the door hard with my foot. Guan Xiaoya couldn't dodge in time, as the door was forced open with tremendous force. Her head slammed into the door, and she was thrown back. Guan Xiaoya, fallen to the ground, let out a scream. I rested comfortably against the car door, watching her fall to the ground in a sorry state, her arms and legs bloody. a bump instantly swelling on her forehead. Lin Jiao Jiao, having come to her senses, Guan Xiaoya shouted at me, her voice hoarse, her eyes red. Even now, she was trying to twist the truth. It's not like I'll never take you home again, even if we're close friends. You can't ride in my family's car every day. This is my family's car. Isn't this going too far? Me. Going too far? I laughingly pointed at my own nose, then unashamedly let out a mocking laugh. You told me to open the door, so I opened it, didn't I? You just didn't get out of the way in time and hit yourself on the door. I haven't accused you of extortion. Besides, anyone can open their mouth and say anything these days. You say this is your family's car? Where's your proof? Open your dog eyes and see if you even know what brand this car is. You've worn clothes for a few days, put on a human skin, and you really think you're somebody. With that, I stopped wasting my breath on her and closed the car door again, ordering the driver to go. Seeing the driver's eyes soften with sympathy as he watched Guan Xiaoya wailing in grievance outside the window, my expression instantly darkened. Uncle Li, don't forget who pays your salary. I'll tell my father everything that's been happening as soon as he gets back. Think about your son. Real in your overwhelming compassion. Don't go sympathizing with people who don't deserve it. At my words, the sympathy on Uncle Li's face instantly vanished. He was originally my father's driver. Since my father had been spending long periods abroad managing branch companies, he had been assigned to me. His son was my father's assistant, and his wife was the nanny at the Lin family's old residence who took care of my grandmother's daily needs. The whole family worked for my family. I knew why Uncle Li sympathized with Guan Xiaoya ever since my mother had brought her home 6 months ago in order to establish herself in the household. She tried to please everyone. She'd help the nannies wash vegetables and cook, or help Uncle Li wash the car and chat. Over time, the nannies and drivers grew fond of her, and out of pity, they'd go out of their way to help her. My last sentence was a reminder to him not to forget who his real employer was, and for whom they were working. Since my father had assigned him to me, he should be wholeheartedly working for me, not wasting his attention on a deceitful, hypocritical person. Back home, the nanny auntie, Lu, immediately came over to take my backpack, seeing that I had returned alone, with Guan Xiaoya nowhere in sight. Auntie Lu's smile faltered for a moment. Then she immediately asked, Mississippi, why are you alone today? Where is Yaya? She didn't come back with you? I didn't answer Auntie Lu's question. Instead, I washed my hands and walked straight to the dining room. On the table, almost everything was dishes that Guan Xiaoya liked to eat. The braised ribbon fish I had asked her to make for me yesterday was nowhere to be seen. Instead, the braised pork ribs, Guan Xiaoya's favorite, was placed in the center of the table. At that moment, my anger flared instantly. But Auntie Lu, oblivious to my darkening expression, ignoring Uncle Li's attempts to stop her, continued to chatter away at me. Madam might be home late today. Mississippi, wouldn't it be better to wait for Yaya to get back before eating? Mississippi, are you having another argument with Yaya? You're always picking on a good, obedient child like Yaya. Lao Li, you'd better go back and pick up Yaya. The poor child. She doesn't know this place well. What if she gets lost again like last time? Auntie Lu was rambling, her tone full of reproach, even though she framed it as a question. I tapped my fingers on the table idly, watching coldly as Auntie Lu turned to urge Uncle Li to go pick up Guan Xiaoya. Shut up. Just stop talking. Seeing Auntie Lu's clueless state, Uncle Li couldn't help but lower his voice and scold. It was only then that I finally spoke, asking her calmly, Auntie Lu, where is the braised ribbon fish I asked you to make yesterday? Auntie Lu froze. It was only then that she seemed to realize something. She slowly turned to explain to me. Oh, I went out a bit late today. The fishmonger was sold out, so I couldn't make it today. If Miss wants to eat it, how about tomorrow? Is there only one market in this city? I interrupted Auntie Lou's clumsy lie coldly. You went out late, and the ribbon fish was sold out. How come the pork ribs weren't sold out? Did they really run out? Or did you just forget because you didn't want to make it? As I finished, I picked up the plate of tempting-looking braised pork ribs and dumped the whole thing, plate and all, into the trash can. I don't lose my temper, and the people in this house seem to forget who the real master is. Auntie Lou, since you're so obedient to Guan Xiaoya, why don't you let her pay your salary? I won't say it again. Clear all these dishes off the table. I want to eat ribbon fish today. If I can't eat it, you can pack your things and take early retirement. With that, I turned and went upstairs. But just as I turned, I heard Annie Lou and Uncle Lee muttering to each other. What's gotten into the young lady today? She never used to care about things like this. After making a phone call, I lay exhausted on my bed, staring at the ceiling above my head. I raised my hand and rubbed my throbbing head. What Auntie Lou said was true. In the past, I wouldn't have cared about such things. But at the crowded school gate, Guan Xiaoya had beat me to it, expertly getting into the car, just like always, and shouted for everyone around to hear. Zhao Zhao, I know we're good friends, and Ji Zhao, these things would hurt our feelings. But we don't even go the same way. You can't always freeload off me and have my family's driver take you home just because we're close. Hearing this, the people around me cast disdainful glances my way. If this were before, my face would be bright red and I wouldn't know how to respond. But luckily, at that moment, I had been reborn. In my previous life, she had impersonated me, deliberately humiliated me like this in public, chased me out of the car, and made the entire class think I was a shameless freeloader, despised by all. I had wanted to clarify my identity at the parent-teacher conference and expose Guan Xiaoya's lies. But my mother had come to the conference in Guan Xiaoya's parents' place and announced to everyone that she only had one daughter, Guan Xiaoya. I cried and asked my mother why she treated me like this, why she wouldn't acknowledge me as her own daughter. But she just waved her hand and clarified to the crowd, "Who is your mother? You're just the nanny's daughter. We sponsor you because we feel sorry for you. But now you're Wangsheng things you don't deserve." What a sin! Her words hit me like a thunderbolt, sending me straight to hell. Taking advantage of my mother's favoritism, Guan Xiaoya had no more worries. She not only turned those who sucked up to her against me, bullying me until I was nearly depressed. I had called my father, crying, and told him all my grievances. My father, who adored me, rushed back from abroad, but tragically died in a plane crash. My grandmother, my only support, fell down the stairs when she heard the news and died on the spot. I was still a minor. My mother naturally inherited everything. So, after taking over my father's company and all the inheritance, my mother immediately adopted Guan Xiaoya to prevent the older members of the board from supporting me after I came of age. The two of the Mulanshu fabricated a story about me having schizophrenia and had me sent to a mental hospital. At their instruction, I was tortured to death in that hospital. Just before I died, I learned a huge secret. All the pain I had suffered in my previous life flashed before my eyes. I didn't want to make any empty vows to God. Being able to live this life again was proof enough of my determination. Those who hurt me, I would make them pay. And those who truly loved and cherished me, I would protect them too, so they wouldn't share the fate of my previous life. Before long, there was a knock on my door. Auntie Lou called me nervously to come downstairs and eat. On the dining room table, my favorite braised ribbon fish was in the center. All the other dishes had been replaced by seafood, things I usually liked. Auntie Lou watched me carefully, like she was trying to curry favor, addressing me as young Mississippi. I didn't say a word, didn't even give her a look. I just sat down at the table and started eating with relish. The taste of the ribbon fish bloomed in my mouth. with a hint of sea, salty, sweet, and rich. I ate slowly. It was a dish I could have eaten any time, yet it had taken me a whole lifetime to taste it, because Guan Xiaoye was allergic to seafood. From the day she was brought into the Lin family, seafood had disappeared from our table. But why? The master of this house's surname wasn't Guan. I hadn't been able to eat this dish in my last life. Now, in this life, I could. So from this day on, every regret from my previous life would be fulfilled. When my mother came back with Guan Xiaoye, who had been bandaged at the hospital, I was still sitting at the table, feasting on the seafood. The moment she smelled the seafood, Guan Xiaoye's face went pale. She immediately gagged, but she deliberately covered her mouth and apologized for not being able to control herself. My mother, already angry about me hurting Guan Xiaoye, saw this and her rage grew. She walked quickly to the table and, without caring that I was eating, swept all the seafood onto the floor. Eat, eat, eat. How dare you? You hurt Yaya like that. How can you have the face to eat? And you're eating it at home. You selfish animal. Don't you know Yaya is allergic to seafood? What her allergy has to do with me? I looked up and met my mother's eyes. In my previous life, she always told others that I was ill-natured, had a temper, and wasn't as good and obedient as Guan Xiaoye. But to please her, I kept a low profile in every way, didn't fight for anything. Yet, she still accused me of using tricks and scheming, since no matter what I did, I couldn't please her. I might as well let her see what this young lady's bad temper really looked like. Finding my target, I took the half-eaten crab from my mouth and threw it directly at Guan Xiaoye behind her. Good aim. It hit her right in the face. She shrieked. I let out a cold laugh and looked at her with disdain. She's a poor student who came to beg at our door. Why should I, the Lin family's young lady, accommodate her? Who does she think she is? Giving her leftover scraps is already more than she deserves. Yet she's always complaining, acting like she owns the place. She should look in a mirror and see if she's even worthy. I leaned back in my chair, my tone casual. What I said was the truth. But Guan Xiaoye, as if deeply wronged, was crying her eyes out. But I could still see, beneath her wronged expression, barely concealed malice. How did I ever give birth to something so ill-bred? Apologize right now. My mother's voice was so shrill it almost pierced my eardrums. But I remained silent, my sharp eyes moving between her and Guan Xiaoye behind her, as if to say, did I say anything wrong? Forget it, Auntie. Seeing this, Guan Xiaoye, who had seemed so aggrieved, stepped forward, tugged at my mother's clothes, and said with red eyes, the young lady is right, even with your financial support. Auntie, I'll never be like her. Some people are just born to enjoy life. I'm an outsider in this house. I only deserve leftovers. With that, Guan Xiaoye picked up the half-eaten crab off the floor and, ignoring my mother's protests, put it in her mouth. You. I watched with disgust, my brow furrowed tightly. I had to admit, Guan Xiaoye was ruthless to establish herself in this household and drive a wedge between my mother and me. She would stoop to anything, but she'd missed one thing. My relationship with my mother didn't need any wedge, because as long as I could remember, she had never been kind to me. Before, I had wondered what kind of mother wouldn't love her own child. It wasn't until I was close to death that I learned the truth. Guan Shirhan, the woman I had called mother for 17 years, was not my biological mother. Yaya, my mother, was horrified. She quickly pried the crab from Guan Xiaoye's mouth. Seeing Guan Xiaoye in tears, she immediately pulled her into her arms and comforted her. Only after she had calmed down did my mother remember me. The culprit. You evil, wicked girl. Do you think I can't punish you? Look at what you've done to Yaya. I'll beat you to death today. You beast. I'd like to see you try. Just as my mother raised her hand, face twisted with rage, intending to slap me, A furious shout came from the entrance. Immediately after, my mother, who had been seething with anger, visibly trembled. The slap about to land froze in midair. The sound of a cane tapping the floor grew closer. Guan Shirhan's expression turned increasingly terrified. Grandma! Seeing the person, I became excited. I ran past Guan Shirhan towards her. Grandma, I missed you so much. Like a little child, I threw myself into my grandmother's arms, thinking of how, in my previous life, her death had been indirectly my fault. My heart ached as if bleeding. Tears streamed down my face. Oh my precious Jiao Jiao, why are you crying? Let Grandma look at you. Have you lost weight? Don't cry, baby. Grandma is here. I'll stand up for you. Who made my precious baby upset? Seeing me cry, my grandmother's eyes were full of distress. She gently patted my back like she did when I was little. Only when my tears stopped did she pinch my cheek lovingly, then pull me behind her and turn to face Guan Shirhan, her expression changing instantly. My son isn't home, so you think you can take charge. If Jiao Jiao hadn't called me today, saying she missed me, and I hadn't come on a whim, I wouldn't have known you were the one running things in this house. My grandmother led me to the living room and sat down, watching my grandmother. Guan Shirhan gritted her teeth with hatred, but she was also too afraid to raise her head, seeing that she didn't dare speak. My grandmother grunted and struck the marble floor hard with her cane. Guan Shirhan visibly shuddered. Mom, this is Jiao Jiao's fault. I was just teaching her a little lesson. A lesson? What right do you have to teach her anything? My grandmother's eyes widened as she scolded. She had always looked down on my mother's background and couldn't stand that, even after marrying into the family. She ignored the Lin family's reputation in high society and was out every day, making headlines, either seen at a dinner party with some big shot or photographed eating with some young stud. In high society, countless people secretly mocked my grandmother and father. In my previous life, I knew my grandmother disapproved of Guan Shirhan, so I had always tried to mediate their relationship. I had made up so many good things about her in front of my grandmother. In the end, it did me no good. I don't care what you do outside, but don't forget how you got your current position and status. If you ever make my granddaughter upset again, you don't need to stay in this family any longer. And you, my grandmother's gaze turned to Guan Xiaoye beside Guan Shirhan. Her sharp look almost made Guan Xiaoye fall to her knees. She said fearfully, Grandmother, don't call me grandmother. I only have one granddaughter, my Jiao Jiao. My grandmother looked at her with undisguised distaste. She said coldly, I heard you've been pretending to be the Lin family's young lady at school. And no, I haven't. Whether you have or not, you know it in your heart. My grandmother pushed harder, not giving Guan Xiaoye a chance to explain. Another cold grunt, and cold sweat dripped down Guan Xiaoye's face. After my grandfather passed away when my father was in his teens, my grandmother had taken over the vast Lin family business. Before my father was old enough to take over, she had managed the Lin Group in his stead. The Lin Group wasn't as successful back then. My grandmother had led the company through tough times, managing the Danxing until it flourished. Her skill and decisiveness were beyond compare. Decades of business ruthlessness meant that even now, in her old age, a single look from her was enough to make people tremble. I'll say this now. The Lin family has only one young lady, and there will only ever be one successor, my Jiao Jiao. Those who think they can use underhanded tricks to get what they want had better think carefully about whether they're worthy of going up against me. This old woman. If I ever hear about someone playing dirty tricks again and making my Jiao Jiao upset, don't blame me for being rude. With that, she stood up, pulled me to my feet, and gave Auntie Lu an order. Pack my things. I'm staying here for a while. I want to see who dares to make trouble right under my nose. Grandmother came to stay. By the next day, besides Uncle Lee, all the servants had been forcibly replaced by grandmother. Guan Shirhan and Guan Xiaoya's faces were practically green. After all, with my father rarely home, they had painstakingly managed to get all the servants on their side. But the moment grandmother appeared, all their hard work was for nothing. My mother was furious, but didn't dare lose her temper, because now she was constantly under grandmother's watchful eye. Every move she made, every word she said, was under grandmother's scrutiny. Guan Xiaoya was even worse off. She had relied on my mother's favoritism to throw her weight around at home and at school. But now my mother couldn't even take care of herself. She was practically hiding out at work, not even daring to come home. Guan Xiaoya's position was already ganga. She had just managed to get close to all the servants, but now they were all gone. The new batch of servants had been specially trained to take orders only from me. Even Uncle Lee, who had been so helpful to her, after I warned him, didn't dare interact with her much, afraid of upsetting me. Now, Guan Xiaoya was practically a ghost in this house. She had food and a roof over her head, but the preferential treatment she had enjoyed was gone. But wasn't that exactly her proper treatment? She was just a poor student the Lin family sponsored. Why did she think she deserved to be treated like a princess? Greedy as she was, she didn't just accept it. She tried to get close to my grandmother, but her little schemes were nothing in grandmother's eyes. After having her allowance cut in half, Guan Xiaoye behaved herself and stopped causing trouble. It was finally peaceful. This was the most comfortable I had felt in 2 lifetimes. Without those annoying people and things, I could focus on studying for the upcoming monthly exam, instead of, like in my previous life, being constantly bothered by troubles, unable to concentrate, and dropping out of the top 10. This time, without any surprises, I kept my place at the top of the grade. After the first exam of the semester came the parent-teacher conference. Unlike my previous life, I didn't eagerly hope that Guan Shirhan would attend my meeting. After all, I knew now how much she didn't want to acknowledge me as her daughter. On the day of the conference, the homeroom teacher had me stand at the door, collecting parent signatures and guiding them in. I heard a commotion in the distance, getting closer to our classroom. I heard people saying, "No way, I just saw Guan, the actress, at the school gate with Guan Xiaoya." So, is Guan Xiaoya really the actress's daughter? The Lin Group's young lady? Definitely. I saw the actress with her arm around Guan Xiaoya's shoulder, looking all affectionate. They have to be mother and daughter. The noise, mixed with exclamations of surprise, reached my ears. The familiar sound of high heels tapping came from the end of the hall, getting closer and closer, finally stopping in front of me. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Guan Shirhan and Guan Xiaoya standing in front of me. One looked disdainful, the other smug. Guan Xiaoya deliberately looked into the classroom, seeing that the seat in the first row, my seat, was still empty. A gleam of Xinjiao flashed across her face. She said to me, in a voice only the 3 of us could hear, "Sorry, sister. Auntie feels sorry for me because my parents aren't here, so she's attending the conference in their place. You don't mind, do you?" "Oh yes, yes, I certainly don't mind." I pushed the sign-in sheet in front of them. "Please just sign quickly." "Okay, there are other parents waiting." There was no embarrassment or pain on my face. After all, Guan Shirhan wasn't my real mother. Who she wanted to go to a conference for was none of my damn business. Seeing that I was completely unaffected and they hadn't succeeded in grossing me out, the smug looks vanished from their faces. Guan Shirhan clenched her teeth, signed quickly, and said to me hatefully, "Just keep pretending." Me, haha. Why do some people always flatter themselves? Guan Shirhan's appearance immediately drew the attention of all the parents and students in the class. As a famous actress, she did have a certain celebrity status, Amidst the flattery and praise around her, Guan Xiaoye sat up even straighter. She kept shooting me defiant glances. I acted as if I didn't see them and walked straight to my seat. As the conference was about to start and some parents arrived late, the homeroom teacher walked into the classroom. Seeing Guan Shirhan beside Guan Xiaoye, the teacher looked visibly shocked, then asked politely, Guan Xiaoye, may I ask who this is? Hello, teacher. I am Guan Xiaoye's mother. Like in the previous life, Guan Shirhan announced to the class that she was Guan Xiaoye's mother. She looked at Guan Xiaoye beside her, her eyes full of motherly love and adoration. After introducing herself, she spoke sincerely to the entire class. I'm often on set, and her father is busy with work, so we don't get much time to spend with her. Therefore, I want to ask the students here to be friends with her. That way, you can look out for each other, and her father and I can feel more at ease. Her tone was humble, gentle, and sincere. She looked like a mother worried about her child. It was quite moving. Of course, Auntie Guan, we love hanging out with Xiaoye. Xiaoye is worthy of being Auntie Guan's daughter. She's just as gentle as you. Don't worry, Auntie Guan. We'll take good care of Xiaoye. We won't let anyone bully her. Many people chimed in, deliberately casting glances my way, as if to say that someone referred to me. After confirming Guan Shirhan's identity, the teacher scanned the room and finally looked at me. Seeing the seat next to me empty, she lightly frowned and asked quietly, Jiao Jiao, where are your parents? Didn't they come today? The teacher's voice wasn't loud, but it was still audible to those who wanted to hear. Before I could answer, Guan Shirhan's voice came from the back. Jiao Jiao, didn't you tell your parents about the conference? You child, even though you're quite relief, you can't keep things like this from your family. All right, your father should still be waiting at the school gate. I'll call him right now. With that, she took out her phone to make the call, explaining to the confused parents and students around her. Sorry, everyone. The child's father is my family's driver, and her mother is the nanny. I've watched her grow up. She's always had a lot of pride. She actually asked me to pretend to be her parent, but I refused. I thought, for something as important as a parent-teacher conference, what right do I have to pretend to be someone else's parent? Right, teacher? Guan Shirhan spoke as if it were nothing, but every word implied that I was ashamed of my own parents' jobs and was an ungrateful brat. Sure enough, after she finished, almost everyone gave me odd looks. Some parents couldn't help their sarcastic remarks. She won't even acknowledge her own parents. What an ungrateful daughter. A daughter like that is worse than raising a dog. If I were her parents, I'd just cut ties with her. It was almost exactly the same scene as in my previous life. In my previous life, because of Guan Shirhan's words, I was so embarrassed I didn't know where to put myself. I rushed up to her and asked why she was saying that, why she was doing this to me, when I was her real daughter. But she mercilessly pushed me away and said that, having been exposed as a liar, I was going crazy and had mental problems. If I had known back then that the woman in front of me was not my biological mother, I never would have done anything so rash. Have you said enough? Amidst the disdainful looks and snide laughter, I calmly looked up and stared at her unblinkingly. There was none of the panic from before in my eyes. Only calm indifference and a hint of mockery. Guan Xiaoye's mother, as a public figure, you should know that your every word and action has a big influence on you and others. Are you willing to take responsibility for everything you just said? Of course. Guan Shirhan raised her chin, completely unconcerned, but she was doomed to have her words come back to bite her. Everything I said is true. In the past, I pitied you, so I turned a blind eye to you impersonating my Ye outside. But now, I don't want to indulge in your vanity anymore. I also want to prove my Yea's true identity. She is my only daughter, Guan Shirhan's. Oh, I didn't know you had another daughter outside. Just as Guan Shirhan finished speaking, A deep voice came from the doorway. The moment she heard the voice, the smug look on Guan Shirhan's face instantly Ningguo. She couldn't believe it. She turned to look at the classroom door, but the moment she saw the person, her face went pale, and she could barely stand. Dear, why are you here? At the classroom door, my father and grandmother stood, faces dark. No one knew how much of Guan Shirhan's speech they had heard. He was in a suit and leather shoes, his aura imposing. The moment he walked into the classroom, the pressure dropped. A parent in the room who happened to work for the Lin Group immediately stood up from his seat and respectfully called out, "Mr. Lin." My father nodded to him, then led my grandmother to my seat and sat down. You are? Looking at my imposing father, even the teacher stammered, "I am Lin Jiaojiao's father. I'm here for her parent-teacher conference. My plane was a bit late, so I'm sorry for the delay." Teacher, my father's tone was light, but it always gave people an inexplicable sense of pressure. "What's going on?" A parent who didn't know the situation asked. After all, the news of Guan Shirhan being the wife of the Lin Group's head had caused quite a stir when they married. It had been reported on the news for nearly a month, so it was well known. Moreover, my father was frequently interviewed by financial magazines, so his face was familiar. It was unlikely anyone would impersonate him or pretend to know him. Coupled with Guan Shirhan's dear when my father entered, even if it wasn't loud, it was clearly heard by everyone. Now, all the parents and students in the class were looking back and forth between the two, wondering what was going on. Why did the head of the Lin Group say that I was his daughter? And why did his wife Guan Shirhan say that Guan Xiaoye was her only daughter? The teacher seemed to swallow nervously. She forced a smile and said it was nothing, then began the meeting. Unlike the lively atmosphere of the meeting in my previous life, this time it was particularly solemn. My father and grandmother sat in the first row. Both had their arms crossed and brows slightly furrowed as they listened to the teacher at the podium. The whole meeting felt like a job performance evaluation. The teacher, who had been quite comfortable, was so nervous she was sweating profusely and looked like she might cry. Only when the teacher began announcing the students' rankings did the atmosphere ease. I was praised as number 1 in the grade and, as the representative of the outstanding students, asked to share my study habits. As the parent of an outstanding student, my father was put on the spot. The teacher asked him to talk about how he supervised my studies and his general approach to parenting. After a moment of silence, my father showed me a rare, soft, apologetic expression. "I haven't been a good father because I'm always busy with business trips. Since she can remember, I've spent very little time with her, but I am very proud because my daughter is remarkable. She has grown into a more remarkable person than I ever expected, even better than I was at her age. So, for my daughter, I want to say sorry. I'm sorry for letting her suffer when I wasn't there. I'm sorry for not being there when she needed me most." Seeing the apology in my father's eyes, I couldn't help but cry. My feelings for my father were complex. I admired him. I understood him, but I also resented him. I admired him for being able to manage a company of thousands of people. I understood why he neglected me, taking responsibility for those thousands of employees and their families. But that didn't mean I didn't resent him. In my previous life, when I was hurt time and again by the motherly love I could never have, when I envied my classmates who were picked up and dropped off by their parents every day, I would always resent him for not coming back to me, for not being there when I needed him most. But finally, all that resentment vanished when he died in a plane crash, rushing back from abroad because he heard I was being treated unfairly. Dad, I don't blame you. I took my father's broad hand. Maybe in every daughter's eyes, a father's hand is always broad and warm. He used those warm hands to shelter me and give me a home. Many parents were moved by the scene. It seemed everyone had forgotten the brief incident brought by Guan Shirhan and her daughter. After the speeches, my father and I were invited back to our seats. The teacher continued to announce the other students' rankings. As the rankings went down, the teacher's tone grew more serious, and the atmosphere in the room became oppressive. Finally, the teacher called Guan Xiaoya's name. She couldn't help but slam the score report on the table. Guan Xiaoya's mother, correct? The teacher looked at Guan Shirhan, her eyes full of contempt and something unspeakable. Years as a teacher had given her some discernment. She could naturally tell that Guan Shirhan's earlier words were intended to target me. An adult deliberately targeting a child was enough to provoke her disgust. Guan Xiaoya's mother. Guan Xiaoya's score this time put her in the bottom of the grade. She alone is dragging down the entire class. You should know this is a key class. Since Guan Xiaoya has been transferred here, I'll have to ask you to spend more time on her grades. You parents need to lead by example. Don't let your children waste their energy on things that don't matter like you do. If she continues to drag down the class on the final exam, I will have to report the situation to the principal. She may need to find a different learning environment. The teacher's tone was very serious. Guan Shirhan's face, once so smug, was now just ugly. Beside her, Guan Xiaoya's head was practically buried in her chest. She didn't even dare look up at Guan Shirhan's murderous glare. After all, since she had been transferred to this class through connections, Guan Shirhan had spared no expense, hiring tutors and sending her to remedial classes so she could keep up. But her grades had only gotten worse, sinking to this level, and, unlike the previous life, where Guan Shirhan would have argued with the teacher, this time, with my father and grandmother sitting in the front row, she would have to be crazy to defend Guan Xiaoya. Unlike the high-profile pair from the previous life, this time they were like mice scurrying away. As soon as the meeting ended, they slunk out of the classroom. I followed my father and grandmother home. Now, Guan Shirhan had to explain to my father where this older daughter of hers came from. In the villa's massive living room, the silence was terrifying. My father and grandmother had dark expressions. Neither spoke first. Guan Xiaoya was terrified, shaking like a leaf behind Guan Shirhan. Seeing the oppressive atmosphere, Guan Shirhan forced a smile and started to lie to my father. Dear, I know you and Mom are angry. I didn't mean to not go to Zhao Zhao's conference. She's the Lin family's young lady. She has so many people who love and spoil her. It's not like she couldn't find someone else to go with her. But Xiaoya is here alone, in a strange place. She didn't have a reliable adult. Since I sponsor her, I should be responsible for her, right? So you tell everyone that my Zhao Zhao is the daughter of a nanny and a driver? My grandmother was clearly furious. Her cane was practically poking Guan Shirhan. Do you think Janwei and I didn't hear you outside? Or are you trying to treat us like fools? If Janwei and I hadn't arrived when we did, my Zhao Zhao would have been bullied by you two. A big Janren and a little Janren. I'm not. Guan Shirhan panicked when she realized my grandmother and father had heard everything she said outside. She tried to make excuses, but before she could, I cut her off. Grandma, in a way, she might not have been lying. I narrowed my eyes at Guan Shirhan. Now, I finally had the chance to say what needed to be said. Zhao Zhao, what do you mean? My grandmother was taken aback for a moment. I mean, one thing she said wasn't a lie. I lowered my eyes. Grandma, Dad, in a way, Guan Xiaoya really is my sister. I pulled a paternity test from my backpack and laid it in front of them. My grandmother looked at the report on the table with a serious expression. When she saw the column showing a familial match, her eyes flared with rage. Guan Shirhan, you have some nerve. My grandmother's chest was heaving. She was clearly incensed. She threw the pages at Guan Shirhan's feet. Guan Shirhan immediately bent down to pick them up. But when she saw the secret she had tried so hard to hide, she stumbled and fell to the ground. No, This isn't true. She faked it. This report is fake. Fake. Guan Shirhan frantically tore the report to shreds, as if that could hide the truth. She stared at me, her eyes practically wanting to eat me alive. You ungrateful wretch. I raised you for all these years, and now you're trying to destroy your own mother. Just because I favor Guan Xiaoya a little more than you. You fabricated this so-called evidence to hurt me. What are you scheming? Enough. I was getting bored with it all. We were at this point, and Guan Shirhan was still in denial. I already know you're not my real mother, I stated calmly. Besides, feel your conscience. You know how you've treated me all these years. In my previous life, I had been sent to a mental hospital and tortured. When I was at death's door, Guan Shirhan came to see me one last time. She told me everything. That's how I learned she wasn't my mother. My real mother was my father's first love. She was pregnant with me, and because of her condition, they decided to wait until after I was born to get married. But just before my mother was due to give birth, Guan Shirhan schemed to get my father into bed. She deliberately got photographed by paparazzi and anonymously sent the photos to my mother, who was in the hospital waiting to give birth. My mother was so shocked she went into early labor. She gave birth to me and then bled to death on the operating table. My father was devastated. He had planned to never remarry, but Guan Shirhan, who had accidentally ended up in bed with him, got pregnant and, while my father was busy with my mother's funeral, deliberately had someone leak the news. Because of this, the Lin Group's stock price was affected. To stabilize the company's reputation, my father was forced to marry Guan Shirhan. The condition was that she had to abort the baby. The Lin family could have only one heir, me. Guan Shirhan married into the Lin family as she wished and used the family's resources to become a famous actress. I was too young to understand any of this, and my father didn't want me to grow up knowing my mother had died giving birth to me, so he deliberately hid the truth. So for as long as I could remember, I had believed Guan Shirhan was my real mother. To secure her position in the Lin family, Guan Shirhan pretended to care for me, but secretly, she never stopped trying to have another child with my father. But ever since she married into the family, my father had kept his distance. No matter what tricks she used, he never got intimate with her again. Gradually, Guan Shirhan could no longer keep up the act. Finally, when I was 15 and my father was abroad establishing a branch company, she brought a girl home under the pretext of sponsoring a poor student. That child was not a poor student. She was Guan Shirhan's real daughter, the daughter she had with one of her ex-boyfriends, long before she got into my father's bed. To keep it secret, the child had been raised at her mother's house, passed off as her sister's daughter. Guan Xiaoya was 2 years older than me, but to avoid suspicion, she had falsified her identity and changed her age. That was why Guan Shirhan favored her so much and, after my father and grandmother died in my previous life, quickly adopted her. Guan Xiaoya was her biological daughter. When did you find out? Guan Xiaoya's face was full of shock, even a bit of fear, but I remained calm. No mother doesn't love her own daughter. I have a father and grandmother who love me, so I don't believe my real mother would be any different. With that, I slowly stood up and went back to my room without another word. The rest was no longer my concern. I wanted to avenge my mother's death myself, but what Guan Shirhan had done was too well hidden. If I accused her directly, my father and grandmother would be suspicious. So, some things were better for my father to investigate himself. I could wait. My father acted fast. There was no divorce agreement. He had her sent to a so-called sanatorium. After all, he had given her a chance. If she would just sign the divorce papers and leave with Guan Xiaoya, never to appear here again, he would let her go. But Guan Shirhan refused. She would rather stay, to the bitter end, than divorce my father. She even contacted my father's old rival and tried to have me kidnapped. But my father found out and had everyone who tried to hurt me arrested. My father once asked my opinion. After pretending to think for a moment, I said to him, "It seems Annie has gone mad." "Dad, you've been married to her for so many years. Isn't the most important thing right now to get her treatment?" My father understood immediately. A divorce would impact the company. Since Guan Shirhan was so against it, why bother? It's bad to air family shame. Claiming madness, she was sent to a sanatorium owned by the Lin family itself. This way, the Lin group wouldn't suffer any losses. Guan Shirhan was admitted to a mental hospital to ensure she couldn't escape and cause more trouble, and to avenge my mother and me. A year after she was committed, I had her transferred to a mental hospital overseas, where she had a lobotomy. She became a mindless vegetable. She lives on, like an idiot, without personality, suffering. As for Guan Xiaoya, I didn't let her off either. I had her tied up and taken overseas too, where she became a nurse at the sanatorium. Unless Guan Shihandis, she will never leave that place. Aren't she and Guan Shirhan so devoted to each other? A daughter should take care of her own mother. After it was all over, I went with my father to my biological mother's grave. Looking at the woman on the tombstone, who looked so much like me, her gentle gaze seemed to look through the photo at me. For some reason, I cried. I thought, if she were still alive, I wouldn't have suffered so much in my past life. I would be the happiest child in the world.